Hi, this is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I address your top marketing and sales needs to help you sell more, help more people, keep more people, and do it allowing yourself the freedom to enjoy it without being pushy or sleazy. And we're going to dive in today to a topic that was extremely popular after I got back from Athletic Business Conference in 2017. And if you don't attend on a regular basis, you may want to look at that for 2018. It's a great bunch of people, no matter who you're speaking to. So if you're in Parks and Rec, you're in a city-based program, you're at a university, or you're at a gym, it's very applicable, and you'll get to mix and mingle with all of those individuals who you may not think at first that you have a lot in common with. But the advantage is, like any industry, if we're in fitness, we might want to take a look at what is somebody in the financial planning industry doing? What is somebody in the car marketing industry doing? Because marketing comes down to some real basic things that we each have to do really, really well. And that's what today is all about. One of the problems that we often incur when we get into fitness is we realize pretty quickly that we're in quicksand and we have to wear a lot of hats. So if you're a solo entrepreneur, you completely get this because you are out of time. And the only reason I know this is because it's happened to me. So as a solo entrepreneur first, and then as a personal training director, what I really quickly realized is there really is no good job description for a personal training director. So you've got to write the copy for the marketing so good so that trainers who hate to sell have an easy job, because the job is already done with the right images and the right words. So what I want to talk to you today is about copy that converts, because you write copy, you write the words, the text that goes in everything from a text to an email, to a flyer if you're still doing hardcore flyers, to your posts or your twins, your pins or your tweets or your emails, your articles, your blogs, and potentially the script that you prepare for your videos and for if you're doing online courses, and I'm hoping that you are or you're looking at it for 2017, you're writing words that persuade people to buy personal training or your product service. You can insert that title and specifically by no one else's. So you're persuading them to do it, take action, but with you. You want to persuade them that they don't want anyone else. And that is part of the magic. With copy that converts for your fitness content marketing, whether it's emails, blogs, articles, or direct mail. And if this topic and if the line of fire that we run through appeals to you, you may want to stay tuned and run over and grab the download, the worksheet that goes with this podcast, because I know it's an area that we all need to know. So here's how you get to the point where you can write good copy that converts. And here's where it doesn't come from. So number one, it comes from the list that I'm about to give you, answering the questions that I'm about to give you. And number two, where it doesn't come from is from the product or the service that you've already come up with that you want to market and you want to talk about. That's typically where we start, and it's also, unfortunately, where we end. So many of the trainers and personal training directors that I have either taken over for or that I have attempted to rescue end up in a spot where they're working like crazy. It's not for lack of hard work, but what they've found themselves doing is creating things so that they have something to sell. And the magic and the excitement in that creation of something that they know that customers need is definitely there. So they have passion about their job, but then they get so excited about building the program and how great it's going to be that they've forgotten the most important part, and that is the customer's engagement along the way, the customer desire for the exact thing that they're building. So I'm going to suggest to you that if you've ever been in that place where you've built the supreme, sublime, this is exactly what they need, but they haven't come and they haven't bought, that you start taking a look at your copy. And it may need to begin with the copy before the program is ever built, because it's in taking some of these steps that you will have the answers, and you'll allow your customers to tell you exactly what it is that they will be willing to buy. So, number one is starting with what problem does the customer have and want gone? Like if you could wave a magic wand and in 3 months this would be gone and taken care of and would be improved, what would that look like? And that very thing that I just asked you is really what you would want to ask your customers. And as a trainer who's been in the trenches, if you will, for 30 years, 29 actually, when I first began getting much more serious about what I was going to do, what I wanted to build, and how I wanted it delivered and done, I realized that I didn't know my ideal customer as well as I thought I did. So I had to step back into questioning them and asking, finding out just what was out there that they had tried, that they liked, didn't like, what attracted them, what repelled them, why it didn't stick, what was next, how they felt about things, what they hated about personal trainers in general, or gyms or fitness centers. All of those questions were super important for me to ask, and most of all, for me to have the humility, I guess, for lack of a better word, to go and do it, even after 30 years. I mean, it could have been very easy, and I'm sure some of me was in that spot of, well, I already know this. I've worked with them and I've supervised, just came off of supervising 250 personal training sessions over the last 6 years. I get my clients. I was answering the phone. But it's not true when you get down to really niching. They don't tell you everything when they're face-to-face, but they will if you ask them correctly by phone or have some third-party person do it. So here's what you want to make sure that you're able to answer yes to each of these questions before you even are able to convert your email, article, blog, direct mail into a potential buyer or to a sale. You have to be able to answer yes to, does the customer know they have a problem? Are you the only one who knows they have a problem? Number two is the customer actively seeking a solution to that problem? Number three is, there are enough of these specific type of customers to pay cash so that you could have a profit if you offered a program. So, it might be true that if you offered a program to 3 people for a very, very high price, that it would work. But you've got to know that's the situation that you're in. And then will that be a one-off or a one and done? Will it be that was just stars aligning and you had an opportunity, you took it, but not repeatable, so you'll be struggling for what next do I do? The fourth thing, you've got to be able to say, yep, check this box. You have engineered the minimum amount that you have to charge per product or service, depending on which it is, to profit, even if just 1 was sold. You've got to have an idea of if 1 was sold, if 5 were sold, if you sold 10, you need to know what capacity is for each program, how much you have to make per person, and that part is important. So we often look at just what do we want per program, per hour, per session. And if a trainer is looking there, we may not be looking at, okay, what else has to go into it? What do I have to do to prepare? What have I done to prepare? What do I have to create? And is it create once and then I can sell this many, many times and it's evergreen? Or am I having to do this over and over and over again? So it's going to take much more time. So if you're reviewing food logs and reviewing movement screens for each individual, are you calculating that into your price and the time you have to spend? You want to know before you build a program or as you're creating it, what objections is your customer going to have to the program? Now, we all know the generic ones, the time, the money, and I've got to ask somebody. Those are typically the biggest objections. But there's some other ones. Time of day could be an objection for someone, and that might lead to another obstacle. Maybe it's time of day because of young children, there's no nursery, and I'm at home alone, so that's an obstacle for me. Maybe it's embarrassment or intimidation. They're probably not going to say that out loud. Those are the people that you might not get the chance to see in person unless you have the right kind of copy. It's too hard, or they doubt themselves. So again, that's right in the line of embarrassment, intimidation. It's going to be too hard. It's not going to work, or it's not going to work for me. All of that goes through somebody's head, but they aren't necessarily going to come out and tell you that. It may bubble up in time or money, those things that are a little bit more neutral and benign, so they don't have to reveal quite so much about themselves and their vulnerability. What we'd love to talk about is all the features of our program and all the moving parts. So we have this private room and this private studio, and we have these ropes and bags, and we have these kettlebells, and we have these new tools so you can jump and not get hurt, and and on and on and on. And we like to talk about what a perk that is. However, when a customer comes and they want something, we sometimes forget that they want to talk about the transformation, the outcome. They want to talk about the weight loss. They want to talk about the way they're going to have more confidence and more energy, less brain fog. So both with objections and with desired outcomes, all of those perks about it's a private studio and we have ropes and we have TRX and we have this and that, the other thing, you have to be able to tie those things to the objections and to the desired outcome, because otherwise you can't talk about them because they're just things. And if anybody else could say the same thing, it gives a customer or a prospective customer no reason to come to you. So look at the gyms down the street, up and down the street, and the studios they're in. Private studios are pretty common, right? And what about TRX and kettlebells and dumbbells and bands? All of those things are also pretty common. So if it just comes down to the tools or to the private room, why would somebody say yes? Because everybody else has them too. Then wouldn't it be potentially a matter of price? And maybe that person who can afford it and they have status in town, they might want to go to the higher priced place. But it could be they equally might invest in a reasonable and economic place to exercise, because after all, it's just exercise. So you've got to really know your customer and what they want. Is status one of the things that they desire as far as outcome? It might be something worth looking into. So you really want to know your customer. And, we've talked about what they've tried before. So if you are listening to this podcast, for instance, let's treat you exactly the same way. And you've listened before to someone else who could help you with marketing or selling, designing your programs. What happened, right? What have you tried before? What path have you gone down? Have you tried simply Googling what somebody else is doing and mimicking what someone else is doing and maybe reverse engineering it, setting your same price and your same frequency of contact and how many times you're going to see someone? And, why didn't it work? So why are you still listening? And maybe it's just because you want to get better, so don't go away. But, did it work? Did it work really well? And, what you want to do here is not guess. So you don't want to, I'm not asking you to know or to guess, why didn't it work for the customer? It might be things like you and I might know, well, it was a diet. I mean, they could never stay on that forever. So of course it didn't work. But what's important is why the customer thinks it didn't work. It's all about the customer's perception. So why did the customer think it didn't work? The question will only be answered if you ask the customer, why do you think it didn't work? Why do you think you're not where you want to be right now? And just listen. The temptation to rush in and to save the day is so great. And I know that you and I have heard probably many of the things that will come out of somebody's mouth more than once. But the key is you haven't heard it from this person right in front of you or on the other end of the telephone, if that's how it has to happen, before. They haven't had the chance to tell it to you before. So it's extremely important that you give them that moment to tell you their story and why it didn't work and why they're in front of you. Because in allowing them to talk, you will be bridging a gap between you and them, creating a relationship. You also want to ask them what they loved about prior programs, even if they've dropped out of one. Something attracted to them to that program in the first place. So figure out what those qualities are. Find out what that was. Just, again, to pocket that information. What do they hate about personal trainers or gyms? It's something that I come up quite frequently with. I certainly hope I'm not that person that they hate, but they have been influenced by their prior experiences. So if they had a bad one, they stereotype just as much as we stereotype them. And we've got to be careful and be sure that we can set ourselves apart and make ourselves distinct. So think about, how do the features you have, your personality, your traits, not your degree, your certifications, that doesn't matter. Not really. Not when it comes down to choosing a trainer. What it comes down to is, do they like you? Do they trust you? Do you come across and give them confidence in what it is they need and the fact that you'll be able to meet them right where they are? You want to know that you're positioning yourself positively without throwing anybody under the bus. All of that can be done. So if you dish the competition, nobody wins. Actually, you break down the fitness industry. And, it's okay occasionally to say, I disagree. I do things a little differently here. Might be a softer way to put things. Or here's why. That works for a lot of people, but based on what you've said, it probably won't work for you, and here's why. So being careful and cautious, setting yourself apart, you have to know what she hated and what she wants. And when you've done all of this, basically it's seed planting and it's overcoming the objections before they ever come up. You're wooing her. You are selling without selling and overcoming objections before they ever come up. Then in your ad copy and your images and your conversations and your videos, you want to be sure that all of those, that copy is full of words that have them already in. You have to plant seeds that make them see themselves already started. And here's some words that'll help. So check your copy and your scripts for things like this. When you register, when you enroll, when you apply, the first step you'll take is imagine, and ask yourself, which of those lines have you used in your copy, in your scripts, in your ads? Have you let them know exactly what it's going to be like and what they can expect? So you're leading them down the path of, okay, I'm in, I've got it. And when you can say that, yes, you've done that, then you're there, because that's the kind of copy that converts, especially if you've hit emotion. That's the most important thing. And then they follow up with logic. You can do that, provided you take some time and go back through copy that you have now so you can position yourself to reach them. Because we buy things, you and I and your customers, out of emotion. And then we want to be justified. We want to confirm that we were super smart to do that. And that's logic. And you want to have both in your copy leading up to the sale and your copy that convinces them that, yes, this was an awesome thing for them to be doing. And I'm so glad you were here today. So I'd love to have you go and grab Copy That Converts. It's a worksheet so that you can go through and look at, what are you doing when you're marketing to a certain ideal target customer? When maybe you've created a program, but you're not exactly sure you've drilled down for who it is, so that you can write marketing copy to an individual as opposed to about a program. That's the difference between filling your programs regularly because you're having a conversation with the people who really want them or not. And you can go and grab that. There's a link below the show notes at today's podcast, tripping over my tongue in this final segment. So go to fitnessmarketingmastery.com/podcast and look at Thanksgiving week 2017, because I am grateful for you and all of the good work that you're doing. And I want you to have a stellar 2018.